Good morning. Welcome to the special meeting conference of the Newark Municipal Council on Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. In accordance with New Jersey law, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided to the Star Ledger, the Jersey Journal, and the public at large, establishing the date, time, and location of this meeting. In addition, the agenda for this meeting was disseminated on January 10th, 2025, at the time of preparation and posted on the website of the City of Newark. Roll call, please.
Present.
Present. Here.
Present.
Here.
Present.
Council President, council members, we are on page 4 of the agenda. 7R1A S through 7R1B S are emergency appropriation, temporary emergency appropriations. A is for the housing opportunities for persons with AIDS, and B is the emergency solutions grant. Council as a whole to adopt A and B.
Roll call.
Council.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Kelly. Absent. Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos. Absent. Scott Roundtree.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
President Crump.
Yes.
7R2AS through 7R2B are all for on-call environmental consulting. Council as a whole to adopt, my apologies, 7R2AS through 7R2CS.
Roll call.
Council.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Kelly. Absent. Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos. Absent. Scott Roundtree.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
President Crump.
Yes. Madam Clerk, but that was through CS or through DS?
I forgot to include D, my apologies. 7R2C and D are all planning consulting services for economic and housing development. Council
So-
as a whole to adopt
Okay.
C and D, even though we did A and B.
Okay. Roll call.
Council.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Kelly. Absent. Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos. Absent. Scott Roundtree.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
President Crump.
Yes.
7R3AC and 7R3B, 7R3AS and 7R3BS are both regarding professional services contract and engineering. A is to provide engineering services to prepare design documents, bid documents, and handle construction management for the renovation of the new Newark Drop-In Resource Center. And B is to rescind the professional service contract award to DRG Architects. Council as a whole to adopt A and B.
Roll call.
Council.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Kelly.
Can I come back to that? I didn't hear it. Just walked in. My apologies. You can come back to me, Madam Clerk.
Okay.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Ramos. Absent.
You skip Quintana?
voted
You said
twice.
Gonzalez.
Oh, I'm sorry. Quintana. I'm sorry.
Yes. We look alike, but.
Oh,
Sorry.
Oh, I got-
Sorry.
Hey, hey.
Ramos. Absent. Scott Roundtree.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
President Crump.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Okay. We're at the final voting items, beginning on page 8. 7R6AS through 7R6IS are all professional services contracts for the law department regarding litigation defense. Council as a whole to adopt A through I.
Roll call.
Council.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Kelly.
Yes.
Quintana.
Yes.
Ramos. Absent. Scott Roundtree.
Yes.
Silva.
Yes.
President Crump.
Yes. Yeah, well, before we go to public hearing, I just want to wish our councilman from the West Ward a happy birthday
Yes.
today.
Beat me to it.
You know, congratulations. You know, every day, every year is a beautiful thing that you go for another year, and you're like me, an old man with a young kid now. So
Yes.
congratulations and happy birthday.
Thank you. One of the best.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
it's
Councilman.
in response to 7R3 AS, the design of the drop-in center. Can we get some more information about the abatement process, when it's going to be up, when we look to begin to have resources and an active center in place? It was, my assumption that when we first went into this, that the individuals that we were renting or leasing the building from was going to handle the design and construction, and that we would be able to, be up and running with this drop-in center at some point last year. So I don't know where we are and where the expectations of where we're going to be moving forward.
We can get somebody here right now. You want to get something in writing later?
But I believe.
All right, Director.
All right. Good morning, Council President, Council members. Lewis, Director, Office of Homeless Services. The space was actually purchased last year. Is a brand new 8,000 square feet space that the mayor is designated for a new 24/7 drop-in and resource center that's going to focus on unsheltered population, but will provide services through our city in general. So there was a delay, unfortunately. We had a design firm that was on board last year. They eventually, dropped out because they could not agree to the terms of the contract. Something that was really out of our control. We were set in moving forward. We had design meetings with the community, but they unfortunately decided to not move forward. So we had to then, choose the next firm that, responded to the RFP, which is the one that's before you. We had conversations with this firm, and they are excited and ready to move this forward. To your point, the timeline is aggressive. We are starting the design phase this month, and the goal is to open this center by the end of the year.
Thank you, Director. Anything else, Councilman?
You wouldn't have this, the expectations by the end of the year, right?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm saying put it out there in the public.
Yeah.
Put the pressure on us. It's a redevelopment, so we're not building this from the ground up. We did a lot of due diligence reports. It's a matter of changing the new systems and, of course, renovating the space, which we feel can happen this year.
Council.
The design layout is going to be similar to what was had by the previous architect, or is there going to be a new design layout? And if so, is there going to be conversation with the community about this new design layout, what that plan looks like?
Yeah, to your point, the first design, was informed by the residents, so we're going to try not to steer away completely from it. We did engage the community, spoke to our stakeholders, and we do like the design of the floor plan that was proposed, and we're going to try to stay as closely as we can to that design moving forward.
Thank you.
Councilman Gonzalez.
I have a more or less a comment word for the Director of Engineering more than Mr. Hilario.
Good morning, Councilman.
Yes, good morning. The other day you presented us with the other started to contract with the inspectors. And I was thinking there are inspectors around us that might not have the same amount of work that we have. Let's say towns like Belleville, Bloomfield, Harrison, East Orange, Irvington, that may have available inspectors that we can contract with. If we had let's say a sharing agreement with those towns. So I don't know if you have investigated or at least say thought of contracting with this neighbor town so that we can use their inspectors instead of having to contract with private companies to do it.
Good morning, Dolores Martinez Wood, and Director of Department of Engineering. Thank you, Councilman Gonzalez. I will take that into consideration. As you see, the item is not in the agenda because we are putting together more information for the council, and you'll see it in the next agenda, and this will be part of what we address.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the council? To the public.
We are now in the 30-minute public comment portion of this meeting where each speaker will have 3 minutes to speak. If you have an issue to address the council, please step to the podium.
Good morning. Morning, George Tillman, Council President. As you know, I've been coming to this mic for quite some time. And throughout that time, I've not disrespected or called anyone out of their name, even though we've differed in me coming to this mic. I've not called anyone a criminal. I've not called anyone corrupt. I've not done any of those things. I'm gonna ask going forward, because what I do when I come to this mic, I don't consider myself a complainer. But several times I've been addressed by people of the administration or this council as a person that's coming here complaining. And I've not addressed any of you outside of what your title is. The only thing, when I come to this mic, and I bring the issues of social justice. And when I come to this mic, I ask my representatives to ask the administration to correct the things that are incorrect. Those things have not been corrected since I've been coming to this mic almost 2 years. And I'm going to continue to come to this mic until those things are corrected. Again, we had a special meeting. I asked that Newark Works, the deputy mayor, come to this mic and give a plan of action as to how they're going to get Newark residents to work, knowing that the administration is non-compliant with our municipal laws. I've also asked that the administration come and present to us what is the action plan to address the Affirmative Action Review Council that is to monitor and enforce that law. None of that has been done. So I'm asking again, as an advocate of social justice, this administration come to a special conference or a meeting to explain what's going on with our state of affirmative action. Why is it that we're still giving out tax abatements when the administration is unable to supply the demand that they said that they would through Newark Works? There is a serious need to recruit and get the talent and the workforce that we need in this city. The administration had over 10 years to do that. Now we're asking for accountability of all that has not been done for 10 years. I'm entitled to that as a Newark resident. I'm entitled to that as someone who is affected by these things that aren't right in our community. That's all I ask you, Council President. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker.
Deborah Salters. So this drop-in center, the 2 community meetings that were had, the businesses said no. They didn't want it there. They gave every reason why, along with PSC&G and others. The mayor's answer to that was about the homeless and the unhoused being out there and the different things that were going on was, well, they're out there anyway. So when you all say that you have community meetings and you talk to the constituents, and when the constituents tell you no, you do it anyway, because it's what you want to do. And I've been watching it they started cleaning it up and then nothing. I mean, there's nothing else more that they could really do with the design because of how the building is. And this was before we purchased it. So what it is what it is. I mean, what are they going to do? Build out into the street? That's not going to happen. I mean, the building is what it is. But when we say no, you all look at us like it's going to happen anyway. So I don't care whether you say no or not. So why do we need you? Why? And someone stopped me several times on the streets and was like, why is the city don't have no money? And when you look at the agendas, every year, it's a temporary emergency appropriation before we have a budget. That's why we never have any money, because we're borrowing from what we don't have. So what do you think is going to happen? We're going to have to take bonds out for 22 million, 220 million, 10 million, 110 million for bridges that were supposed to be a part of an initial, plan in the first place to recover those funds. It's like you cannot, I mean, the day used to be when you had a checkbook before everything became automated. Well, I'm gonna post date this check to get this done. No, you can't post date the city's money. Emergency appropriations all over the place. And then when the budget's passed, the money's spent already. It's the definition of insanity. You all keep doing the same thing over and over. You don't expect a different result, but the residents do. They better wake up and see that you all are just continuing to spin the hamster wheel. When are you going to do something different? Good to see you, Dupree. You missed several meetings before New Year's. I did notice you were missing. But the people are not priority to you all. And it's evident every single time. So I want you all Newarkers to reimagine Newark with a mayor who actually cares about the people and a council who actually works for you, whose salary you pay.
Thank you for your comments. Next speaker. Any other public speakers speaking from the public? Public speaking is now closed. Anything from the council? Anything from the administration?
I have something. Just for Mr. Tillman,
So-
the Affirmative Action Review Council is going to meet January 27th, Monday at 5 p.m. And like the last time, you're invited to attend if you can make it. I know the last time we invited you, but you had something else that you had to do, but you're welcome to come Monday, January 27th at 5 p.m. And just for Director Olorio, Director, just a quick question. Regarding the couple of things like I wanted to talk about, Councilman Council. When you guys are designing the interior of the building, what kind of amenities is the interior going to have? Is it going to have showers? Is it going to have, what's it going to have? Beds?
Yeah, no beds.
Okay.
It won't have any beds, but yes, it will have showers. It will have a kitchen to serve food. It'll have spaces for them to receive counseling, meeting rooms to hold meetings there. I mean, you name it.
So that's what you're talking about, the
Yeah.
interior design of
Correct.
the,
Yes.
not the exterior, the interior
Yeah.
design of the
Yeah,
building.
most of the design will be inside.
Offices, other things that will help us assist our people without addresses.
That's correct.
Okay.
Let me follow up on that.
Councilman
Are
Gonzalez.
you going to have dryers and washers?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, we will also have that there. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the idea is to provide really all the services under one space, not just to pull them in so they can, meet with counselors and case managers, but also to meet their basic needs, right? That they are struggling right now to request, so.
Thank you.
Anything else? We move to adjourn.
Council,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Kelly,
Yes.
Quintana,
Yes.
Ramos absent, Scott Roundtree,
Yes.
Silva,
Yes.
President Crump.
Yes, meeting's adjourned. And we're going to change the order of the presentations.
Yes.
Madam Clerk?
Council President, Council members, we'd like to change the order of business for the special conference to begin with an update from the Department of Public Works.
Madam Clerk, I don't know what it is. Your mic seems kind of low. I'm having trouble. Or is it just me?
Can you hear me now?
That's
A
better.
little better?
Thank you.
Okay. Council President, council members, we'd like to change the order of business for the special conference to begin with an update from the Department of Public Works.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council President, council members.
Good morning.
Tariq Roland, Interim Director for Department of Public Works. Before I start talking about our plans for the cleanliness and beautification of the city, I just want to thank my team who was here from DPW over the past couple months, right? They've been in the trenches grinding with us, and we all know what we've been up against as it pertains to recycling and refuse in the city. Before I talk about where we've been, or where we are, where we want to be, and how we get there, I just want to address some of the issues and concerns that we've had over the past 2 months as it pertains to recycling and refuse. We got hit very hard. I've provided a report for everyone here as it pertains to recycling and refuse. The week after Thanksgiving is the highest volume of tonnage, right? Just looking at, so we collected the data for 2023, the week after Thanksgiving. And last year, between recycling, bulk, and refuse, we collected 3,080 tons. This year, we collected 3,350 tons. The first 4 weeks, we averaged, as it pertains to refuse of November, the first weeks of 4 weeks of November, we averaged 1,421 tons of refuse, 487 tons of bulk, and 225 tons of recycling. The fifth week of November, this is right, some of the things that we've been dealing with. We picked up 2,289 tons of refuse, 741 tons of bulk, and 320 tons of recycling. So that last week of Thanksgiving, we were actually doing 2 weeks worth of work within 1 week, and dealing with, we're collecting trash at nighttime, gets colder, missed pickups, a lot of things. I just want to address that, right, and let the community know that these are some of the challenges that we were facing. And, the folks who pick up are actually human beings, right? And they've been giving us their all: rain, sleet, hail, snow. Now I'll just jump into any questions before I move on.
So yeah, let's talk about this for a moment. I'll speak first, and the other council members can jump in. So you and I have talked about, and let me first say, I think this is one of the most important, and also one of the most least understood departments. And I appreciate what you all do, and I want to say that publicly, because it's not easy to do that, and the process is not a 9-to-5 process. There's a spotlight on you, because God knows if something goes wrong, you're blamed. But you need to also know that we appreciate what you do, because what you do right, which is 90% of the time, 95% of the time, no one's perfect. And I wanted to say that first and foremost. I don't know where, and I'll say this way, it's not a disconnect, but there's certain pockets in the city that every time recycling day comes, and you and I have talked, Director,
Yeah.
it seems to get missed. Like clockwork, my phone goes off at about 11, 12 o'clock to say my recycling wasn't picked up, whether it's bottles and cans, whether it's cardboard. And I reach out to you, and it gets addressed, and I appreciate that. But the question is, do you have your supervisors or anyone else or do you have enough, is the question too, supervisors to go around just to do spot checking, to make sure that certain areas that we know or seem to be areas that, whether they're missed, like Madison Avenue, because I assume, and I could be wrong, that the trucks go across South 13th and then come back down South 12th and South 11th, and they kind of miss what's in between on Madison, between South 12th, South 11th, South 14th, and other streets. And maybe that's part of the issue. They just missed that. But do you have inspectors that go around or have enough inspectors to go around and just double check, particularly those areas? Because I know I'm gonna get a call about James Street. I always get a call about James and Burnett. I always get about what I just mentioned,
Burnett,
Madison
yeah.
Avenue,
Yeah.
and those.
Yeah, so I think that some of the things, right? When we brought recycling in the house in April 2023, and I'll talk about more of this later. Recycling, when we planned earlier, before coming out of COVID, recycling isn't the way it was before due to how people shop with Amazon. Just looking at some of the numbers in 2022, Basso collected 10,525 tons. In 2023, from April until December, we collected 12,538 tons. And then 2024, we collected 12,817 tons. So we're working with the administration, the mayor and BA are extremely supportive in understanding, right, that we need additional manpower and equipment because things are changing, right? And I think that we need to take the same model that we did with OVP and MPD, right, in addressing this issue, right? There's a direct correlation between cleanliness and crime. So we're working at it, and I'll dive into some of those things, how we plan to move our scheduling, right? Because we were pretty much building the plane and flying it at the same time, right? And learning and trying to provide our residents the best quality of service.
Yeah.
Councilman, Council.
Yeah, so even when you look at that correlation, there is also a correlation of missed pickups, the amount that people call out as it relates to the overage of trash in the streets and communities. And so even when we talk about the growth of the city and preparing for that growth and how it looks, garbage days are still garbage days. Recycling days are still recycling days. And when we miss those days, the people in the community still put their garbage out on garbage days. So fundamentally, I think we have to begin to look at, because the South Ward is a mess, right? So fundamentally, we have to begin to look at the systems that we have in place. And every time there's movement or changeover, holistically just can't come in and bombard kind of systems because of situations and problems. One, the policy of the city says that a task day, and the definition of a task day is when every district is complete. Is that true?
Yes.
Right. And so if I work from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m., but I complete my specific area or what I consider a district at 9 a.m., and there are other districts that are still laying, that are heavy, individuals should not be leaving work at 9 or 10 a.m. because their specific areas are clean and we can't find them, leaving other areas of the city still without trash, because the definition of district is when the entire city is clean. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And so because of that, we don't have any kind of measures in place of accountability to hold these people accountable, especially when the council president talked about supervisors who are assigned to each specific district to ride these districts to make sure that they give a call in to the main headquarters at Freeland Heights and say, hey, this district is complete. This district is complete. Hence, knowing that when all districts are done, then the city is clean. That's correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're missing the breakdown between the supervisors who are supposed to be manning and making sure that each one of these districts are complete before we give this all call to make sure that things are right. Then we have a situation of morale where individuals are being underpaid, overpaid without any kind of, situations that's going on. That's kind of controlling, because if I'm in a situation where I'm getting underpaid and not getting paid on time, I'm not going to come to work. Is that correct? That's been happening. Then there's times where people are down there that are getting overpaid and have to turn back in what their payment is. So that means there needs to be some kind of payroll audit put in place to make sure that we are working in this kind of accordance so that people who are actually working and coming to work are rewarded for the work that they're doing and not the people that are coming out. The system with street sweeping, because it is also engaged in what is happening with street pickups and cleanups, hence having an adverse effect on ticketing from the police or parking authority, working together in a collaborative manner, because we all have to put these systems together, is failing us as well, because we argued that we need more Timcos or bigger machines to get up the trash, but there's still trash in the streets doing street sweeping because of training. not the actual apparatus. So I'm just trying to break down some things so that we can walk through this, because I looked at your plan, the dates and the issues that we have. So we have to have accountability for folks not doing work, and we're burning folks out that are doing the work. And part of your plan speaks about trying to ensure that DPW becomes a 24-hour operation, which I totally agree with. In the 21st century, DPW cannot work Monday through Friday from 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. in the largest city in the state of New Jersey. It just can't happen that way. So we have to make sure that those things are happening. Then we have an operation where we have a dump that is open 24 hours a day, where we have to make sure that the trucks are getting to the dump and dumping. Many times, even in the evening, if you ride down on Pennsylvania Avenue in Vanderpool, there are a lot of trucks that have a tremendous amount of garbage still laying in those trucks. And we have to find out a way to make sure that every truck or apparatus that we have is getting to the dump. The new amount of trucks that we brought, because the council voted on a bunch of trucks a couple of years ago, and every director that has come down there has ordered new equipment. So the problem may be not just the investment in the equipment, the monitoring of it, how it's being monitored, who handles those systems, the checking in and checking out of them, and the accountability around them of who's handling them, what happens when they are at air break for a long period of time, or at another vendor for a long period of time trying to get fixed. So those are some really internal kind of things that, in order to make this operation go and what you've envisioned on the document, they're really going to have to be some kind of systematic changes that sometimes may not involve the same kind of people.
Yes, and Council, you and I have talked, you've nailed it, right? The one thing that I do want to address is the situation with the garbage trucks that are parked. We dump them actually every week. And because when you get off 78, people who are living, someone is dumping in the back of the hopper, but everything else that you said was extremely correct. And I'm optimistic, right? And my team is optimistic that everything that you spoke about will be coming into fruition in the next couple of weeks, months, and years to come.
The area where you talked about refuge and bulk recycling pickup, if we can add another column that talks about the amount of illegal dumping
Yes.
that is put in there, because we also pay for the amount of illegal dumping that happens. And I think that'll be a good indicator and a good Bell's point for us to, even when you go out and talk to communities, to let them know this is how much refuse that we collect a week. This is how much it costs. This is what it looks like. This is how much bulk we cost. This is the amount of illegal dumping that we have collected, because some of our own community members may be culprits in dumping illegally, and also allowing other people to come in and dump illegally. And then we also have the individuals who are outside of our peripheral who comes into the city that dumps illegally. We should be able to attach a cost to that, because that cost attaches back to the taxpayer of the amount that is picked up in terms of what we pay for refuge and tonnage.
Yes, I agree. We're working on completely separating our illegal dumping to be able to track it, right, and be able to find out exactly how much we're spending, because those tipping fees are extremely taking a toll on us. So you're right on.
Councilman, you finished? Yeah.
I'll come back. I know, Councilman.
Okay, Councilman Quintana.
You know, it's one of the departments that really, everybody praises other departments, but this is one department that during COVID, hardest days of COVID, these men and women were out there. I mean, we had public safety out there, but the other arm to the city was the Department of Public Works. From recycling to every aspect of, they were out there. And sometimes, as Councilman said, the morale is sometimes, is not there, because it's how we treat the people that work for us. We get back. When we don't give back, for an example, at Passaic Valley, as a commissioner, we do a Christmas party with the local union. for our employees at that facility. That creates a morale. We need to create a morale moving forward. Christmas comes, Thanksgiving comes, all these days. Our recycling, there was 2 weeks in a row that the cans and aluminum and all the other stuff were, and the boxes and all that were not picked up. In other cities in the Northeast Corridor, what they have done is they know, because by the time you take a truck and you ride it down with all the traffic going down, it's just impossible. What would be possible if we had containers, right, in every ward, dumpsters, where that department would come and load up these containers and then move them out later, so that you don't, it's cold out there, the conditions are horrible. If we could pick all this stuff and put it in containers and then move it out in the evening or whatever time, then take the garbage, because that's essential, and that brings rodents and whatever. If we could look at that possibility, I spoke to the BA about the possibility. If you would take 5 locations and put, and have a truck or a pickup truck or a bucket loader or whatever it may be, and put it in, it would, because by the time you get into traffic down, when you go down Market Street to go down to it is horrible. We're competing against New York City that brings all their garbage to the incinerator. We're competing against every city around, and it's not fair for our folks, because it's easy to say, well, they didn't do their job. They did. The problem is that we have to find a way and make it easy for these men and women who work in the Department of Public Works. It's not easy working out there in a cold day when it's freezing, people throwing out stuff. I mean, the garbage. We should have inspectors too, looking at the mix of recycling that's mixed with the regular garbage, the oil that drops on these guys, and the equipment, the uniforms, the coats. All these things are important and essential to these other people who work for us. And I think that every elected official knows this, that the arm of a city is public works. Yes. I understand people say, well, it's public safety. I do believe that too, because I understand that. But what's essential to the citizens, and matter of fact, the calls, as you alluded, the calls were just going off. Oh, my boxes didn't get picked up. My recycling did not get picked up. They didn't come. So again, we have to find a way. If we know that there's Christmas and Thanksgiving is coming, so what we do is put containers in different sites that we have, and just start taking stuff in a pickup truck, throw it in there. Because if you're gonna load up a truck, by the time you load up that truck, it goes down to Market Street or wherever it goes, we're wasting our time. And women and men are out there in this cold weather where they don't have a heating station. They don't have a heating place to get warm. And it is cold. So again, let's move forward. I think also recommend that we do a committee of the council. We have a public safety committee. We should have a committee of the Department of Public Works. So we could, in terms of moving forward, find out what is it that we have to do. Because again, the Department of Public Works, men and women work hard there. I would never say nothing negative, because I've seen them out there. I see the conditions in cold and rain. And sometimes the equipment, they don't have the right uniforms out there, the right hats and whatever it may be. So we got to treat them a little. And then in terms of the trucks, this council has appropriated. Yes. We were put money into it. Previous administrations have put money into the Department of Public Works. We got to treat it well and move forward. We should meet more often than we'll wait till a crisis occurs to deal with issues. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. I do know that we are looking at that same model, and the data shows that during our spring cleaning, when we put the dumpsters out there weekly, it is actually working. So we want to kind of work with our team and look at that model Again, the administration is extremely supportive in helping us. We're just trying to figure out how to do it, right? Where do we put the dumpsters? Is it every other week? Is it every week? And then how do we implement that system? So we're definitely looking at because it's extremely effective. And you can also see that the data shows that more people are recycling and bulk is going down.
Councilman Gonzalez. Your mic's off.
The night pickup of recycling is by 11 o'clock in my area, the recycling has been picked up. So I like that. However, what I don't like is the inconsistency of the pickup. Let's say 2 weeks ago, the recycling of carton wasn't done for 2 weeks. The same is happening with the street cleaning. It's inconsistent. I believe we have to be more aggressive in making sure that what is supposed to happen happens. Because if somebody is supposed to clean your street or to sweep your street, that person should be supervised to the effect that, in fact, the street is clean, is swept. The same with recycling. I don't have any problem with, let's say, the regular garbage. The problem that I have is with recycling, and I don't have, let's say, a form of communicating with you. As a matter of fact, I communicated with the previous acting director when the garbage wasn't picked up, because I didn't have a way of communicating with you, because we don't get the information as to who is or who isn't the director of these departments. Let's say these directors change, but we don't get the information. At least I don't. So the council president may get that information that Mr. Tyree Roland is the director. I don't know Tyree Roland from Adam if I see him on the street, because he hasn't been formally introduced to us as the acting director of the department. I believe that the administration, every time that there is a change in the directors, should come to us and say, by the way, this person is the new director, and here is his telephone number so that you can contact that person in case you need to do that.
I apologize for that. I'll make
Let
sure
me
that,
say,
you know.
I hate to say it's Councilman Gonzalez, he was introduced. I think you were sick that day, but he was introduced to us at the podium by the business administrator. But I do agree,
My
we all
apologies for
need
that.
everybody's phone number too. And I actually had to ask, but I think it's important. That's maybe something that we should look at, Madam Clerk, of having a directory of all the directors and having their numbers so that we can contact them.
We
Thanks.
should have a group of the directors, so that if we want to communicate with all the directors, we can send one text and every director gets it.
So let's work out a system and we will figure that out.
Absolutely.
Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Scott Roundtree.
Thank you, Council President. Well, everything that my colleagues said, Councilman Council, everything that they've stated, I ditto. But I just want to address, I did hear Councilman Council speak of training. And I've had some encounters with some individuals. And as Council President stated, these men do jobs that other people won't do, can't do, and will not even think about doing. So I want to start off on a positive note, stating that I'm thankful for the gentlemen who do the work. However, with them doing the work and us praying for them working in all these conditions, rain, sleet, snow, hail, whatever it is, they have to be out there. I know there's a shortage of manpower, but that being said, customer service is still in place.
Yes.
Even though they are doing a job that is not the cleanest job. How they deal with the public is important. So that training piece and that conversation, that never engage with residents on a negative note. If they throw the garbage cans out in the street after they dump them, that people have to get out and put the garbage cans back on the curb so there's not an accident. Garbage falling out the back of the truck being left in the street. There was a time when there was a director that, and this is time consuming, but there were trucks that used to have brooms, and I don't know if they still do, but I don't see folks get out and do it no more. I think the previous director and the director before him made sure. I witnessed garbage falling all out in the street, and I called the director and I got the number of the truck, and I reported it because, you know, it just wasn't right for them to leave all of that garbage in the middle of the road and keep going when I tried to stop them. I wasn't a council person then, but it doesn't matter who I am as a resident of the city. If I say, wait a minute, you just dropped all these bottles, or you just dropped, and the bottles shouldn't even be in the regular garbage. That's a recycling item. But once they put them in there and you dump it in there because you didn't see it. So that's something that I would really like to see as part of the training, that the gentleman realized not to engage in a negative. Some of them didn't have a good day. So they didn't have a good day, and they're out there picking up the garbage and it's smelling, and they got to deal with people yelling at them. That's not an easy place to be, but they still have to realize that they're a public servant for the city, representing the city of Newark, and to not leave garbage in the middle of the street. And we're praying for the entire Department of Public Works, because they have a very, very tough job. So just try to deal with that training piece that Councilman Council was speaking about. I don't care what truck they're driving, the guys on the back of the truck, if they're dropping garbage in the street, they're contributing to the problems that we're trying to do by keeping our city clean. Thank you so very much, Director.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council President.
Councilman, birthday councilman, I can't think of your name for a moment.
Birthday, Councilman. Thank you, Council President. I just want to echo what my colleague said. You know, I speak to you guys a lot about different things in the West Ward, you know, the managers, the supervisors, and I just want to thank you for always attacking the issues and the concerns that we have. Just one thing, how is your engagement with the public safety? And what I mean by that is, when we pick up recycling, or when we pick up the garbage, is there someone if the cars, because there's a lot of cars in the West Ward that don't move because they believe that recycling or the garbage truck is not going to happen, and they don't get ticketed. So there's no enforcement. Is there a communication between public safety and the Department of Public Works? If your garbage man or the driver drives down the block for recycling and he sees the cars, or the street sweepers, and he see the cars, do they just go around it and not contact anybody? Or is there a phone number that they can call the desk sergeant, or they can call a lieutenant, or they can call a captain and say, Cap or lieutenant or sergeant, let's get a car over here. You know, it's recycling day or it's street sweeping day. And the reason why I'm asking that, because if they just go around it, then the people will just continue to park there. And in the West Ward, down in Fairmount, we had this conversation a couple of days ago. I had an event, and it was just terrible. And that's only because the cars stayed there, and probably the street sweeper did not come, or did not have the space to clean the sidewalks or the streets because of the vehicles were there.
Yeah, so we do work in tandem with a parking authority. One of the things that we're doing to combat that is getting all of our supervisors sworn in as code enforcement officers and have the ability, right, you know, because there's a finite amount of resources. So we want to be able to do is, we have our supervisors and drivers on the ground. So we're working with the administration to get them sworn in as code enforcement officers. That way they can actually take the picture, cite the violation, you know, timestamp it, and then we can actually get some of those things back in court, as Councilman Council spoke about. So we're working with that, trying to get it before June. It's a very strenuous process, but those are one of the things that we're trying to do, that we will do, not try to, we will do.
So by June, we should see a little
I'm
different.
optimistic. I'll give 110% to that.
And thank you too, once again, for all of the work that you guys do, man. You do an amazing job. We're just trying to be a little more proactive.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Councilman Silva.
Yeah, good morning, Director.
Good morning, good morning.
I speak to you, I don't know how many days a week.
Every day.
Right, every day, if that's what you want to, it's the truth. I see things in the East Ward that I haven't seen in over 50 years. And one of those things is that a lot of garbage is now picked up on the same day. Large chunks of the East Ward ironbound aren't picked up. You headlined your report here, the city's growing. There's no ward that's grown faster than the East Ward. in the last 3 years. None, not even close. The amount of garbage that's out there is alarming that residents are putting out. When I see one of your garbage trucks, and again, I don't think there's anybody in this room that would switch places with one of your guys.
That's right.
Okay? There's not anybody in this room. But when I see one driver and one sanitation worker behind, you are killing these guys. They're burnt out. They're not going to get as much accomplished as you would like them to, and I don't blame them. It's a lot of garbage on both sides of the streets. To ask one guy to do that work, you just can't justify that. I know you need resources. I know you need manpower. I know that. We know that. Everything that everyone set up here is correct. It's not a lie. They see it. Our constituents see it. And you're in a very difficult situation. But we're here to support you. But there has to be. I've always said in the past, since I've sat here, outside the police department and the fire department, you're the most essential department in the entire city.
For sure.
You are the most essential department in this entire city. And we've had conversations. We actually met last week with the business administrator prior to this, and we highlighted a few things. And just so that the public knows, we have Covanta, or wherever they're called now, which is where we go dump. And I was able to get you a run number or a run time. I know you said from the scale. What's happening is our garbage trucks are going to unload at a location in our city and still having to wait 2-3 hours to unload the garbage. Meantime, that dump site is in our city. Why we aren't getting preference and treated better than garbage that's coming from New York City and Staten Island and other places is beyond me. So I know the BA was going to look into possibly getting us expedited when we get in there, because then that will get more of our garbage picked up. To touch on something that Councilman Quintana said, I think by putting places like Waydell Street and Earl Street, like you have the dumpsters, gives our residents other options to go dump their garbage, which will then alleviate a lot of the work that your guys are doing, right? If we can give residents another option, maybe they'll go take their garbage themselves to that dump site and drop it off in a dumpster. And the difficult task of your guys, a lot of it might be, gone. But it's something that we definitely have to look into. We have to come up with other solutions. When we don't do anything, that's where the problem exists. Councilman Council touched on a lot of good points, and we need to make sure that, and I'll say this now, we have a tax reevaluation coming up. We're going to ask our residents, our homeowners, to pay more taxes. But meantime, our services aren't what they're supposed to be. How do you justify that? How am I going to look somebody in the eye, one of my residents, that their taxes may go up, but their garbage can't get picked up? And that's not your problem. That's our problem. That's the city's problem. So we need to improve the services that we provide for our residents. And I'll tell you, in my perfect world, I look in the back of the room, I see our police officers. I know who the supervisor is. Why? He's got a different color uniform. I think we should give our uniforms, perception is everything. We should give our men and women who collect our garbage the proper attire that they need in the winter, in the summer, to keep them warm in winter, but also maybe something that specifies who they are, what they do. I think that will go a long way in the perception that we give. Because right now, my biggest complaint in the East Ward is not crime, is not anything else, it's quality of life, garbage. And again, if we don't come up with a solution, 50 plus years, I've never seen it like this in the East Ward. From the kid growing up, the garbage man always had 2-3 guys behind the truck loading up the garbage. They were friendly with all our neighbors and spoke to them and talked to them. Today, I sent you a video of a Ring doorbell that the guy doesn't have his garbage can this morning. He don't know where it went. The garbage guy just dragged it down the street and never got it back. Or the garbage cans are thrown all over the street. An example is when we have garbage on Thursdays, the garbage guys leave the cans on the street, so now the sweeper can't come by. The sweeper can't come by down the street because the garbage cans are littered all over the street that our garbage guys can't even take them and place them on the sidewalk. And that's where training or education is part of the process. But again, they have a difficult job. You have a difficult job. As much as I complained here, I always tell you in my text messages, I am a big supporter of you and your men and women. Thank you.
Thank you. I do just want to.
Thank you. Let me add one. I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
So I do just want to say thank you, but I also want to highlight that the administration is fully behind us, knowing our needs. We're working on it. This plan that you see, the mayor and the BA has, and we're working on getting the manpower, the equipment. Director Redeem actually put together a great capital improvement plan. So all of these things are not only just a work in progress, but will be coming soon, right? I just want to highlight that.
Okay, and thank you. And one of the things I just want to add, and I'm going to come to you, Councilman, what Councilman Silva was saying, I think the dumpster program works very well. I think it really helps alleviate some of the stresses that may occur with your department. So, and I know it's not on a regular basis, but maybe it can be more consistent and do that more often. Just something to suggest. Councilman Council.
Yes, one, I'm not a proponent of the dumpster program, so I want you to know that without heavy supervision, because the dumpster program allows other people from other cities to come in and dump without proper supervision. So if there is someone that at the dumpster and is taking the information, or the person that's coming to dump the stuff is a resident from the city, I'm a proponent for it. Too many times I've been witness, because I'm out on the streets and a tire amount a lot. So many people come in from outside of the city of Newark when they know that the dumpsters are going to be out, because they watch the advertising probably more than the Newarkers, right? And they dump and they, move on and going about their business from the borderlines of Hillside, the borderlines of Irvington, borderlines of South Orange, Maplewood. They all come into the city, utilize our dumpsters, put information in there, along with illegally dumping, right? To do those kind of things. But I wanted to go back to the plan. Part of the new plan talked about the 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Recycling collection. But you know that the ordinance states that refuge can be put out from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. I don't know if you're going to have to make an adjustment to that, right? To ensure that we start at 10 p.m. Because if folks are getting home from work at 6 or 5 or 6:30, the ordinance says that from 6 to 10 p.m., you can start putting your garbage out. I'm saying that for the residents out there as well, so they know that your garbage should be put out between the hours of 6 to 10, prepared to be picked up, and it should be garbage in the bag in the garbage, right? And so we have to rectify that. We also have to deal with a long time problem that we're having that is internal and external. The staging of garbage has to stop, right? That is a large problem. And the garbage on the islands have to stop. Our people have to stop telling the residents that it's okay to put the garbage on the islands. Our islands in the South Ward and other wards in the city are considered parks under the state ROSI. And so when you're putting garbage in these islands, it's equating to illegally dumping. And if we're telling residents that it's okay to put the garbage in the island so we can be easier to pick it up, then what we're really sending a message to is it's okay to illegally dump. And it's not, right? The garbage should be in the bag, in the can, in front of your property, making it easier for the person to come and pick up the garbage. And so we have to look at that and this whole issue around staging, and then just the ordinance piece, because I know you want to start from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m., but the ordinance says folks can start putting out garbage at between the hours of 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. So we just want to rectify that. I think, holistically is a good plan. And around, trying to acquire and get more equipment. We all need, more equipment to continue to do that work. I know we did that prior. We had like 10 trucks and 20 laborers that was specifically designed to do these kind of night collections. Not sure what happened to that. Don't want to really dive into it, but I think we have a perfect opportunity to get back on the right foot, and we should use every advantage that we have to be able to do that and not sit around and procrastinate, not become reactionary, but get in front of these things in a very strategic manner, in ensuring that the residents, as Councilman Silva said, at least know that the services that they are getting provided is there for them. Doesn't matter if it's sanitation, if it's police service, but that the services that they have are being provided to them. So we want to thank you.
Thank you. Anything else from the council?
Just one last question.
Councilman Silva.
Garbage cans.
Yes.
Any delivery date on the next set of garbage? I get asked this every day.
I'll provide you with an answer sometime this evening. Let me get back with my team. Give
Thank
me an
you.
estimated time.
All right, thank you, Director.
Council President, council members, next presentation is the Dockless Vehicles Newark Go program.
Good morning, Council President, council members. Dolores Martinez Wooden, Director of the Department of Engineering. We have the Newark Go companies here to address your concerns and as requested. Thank you.
Good morning, council members. I'm Austin Marshburn, Senior Director for
Good morning.
Good morning, council members. My name is Tianis Kofi, and I'm with VIO as the Policy and Partnership Specialist. Thank you for having us.
Morning.
Austin Spademan, so also in Austin with Bird.
I'm sorry, I could not hear you.
Austin Spademan, also with Bird.
Okay. You have anything you want us opening, or do you want us just to get right in it?
I think we might as well get right into it.
All right. Councilman Council.
I'm gonna let Councilman Silva go first. I think it might be a ping pong.
It was
match,
one of
so.
you two.
Good morning. I'm the one who requested that you gentlemen and ladies be here today. Again, what comes out of this glass comes from my mouth, no one else's. This is my opinion. Whatever's going on with these bikes is a failure. It could have been an idea that had good intentions, like I've said before, but from what I see, the multiple times that you guys have been up here, when we ask how many employees you got, how quick do you pick up the bikes, I don't see any of that. It's become worse week by week by week. The bikes just sit there in front of homes, including mine, for days upon days. The failure of picking them up on time, of them sitting there, the chaos that it creates for these men in the back of the room, Newark police, the violations, going down the wrong way street. I just believe, in my opinion, that this was something that was worth trying, but again, is not working in this city. And at the end of the day, there were responsibility, and I commend our engineering director, because she has stood up there and vouched for you and all that stuff, but I see it every day in my community. I drive around every morning. I drive around every afternoon. I drive around every evening. And what I've seen, this program has become a failure. It's become a nuisance to the city, and it just doesn't work.
Councilman Council.
Yeah, again, if we can find out how many employees do you have that are working in the city of Newark around the dockless vehicle component. Then second, we had asked a tremendous amount of times, I believe, my entire council colleague, about docking stations, because the docking stations cannot be in front of people's homes, cannot be in the middle of the streets. And then we asked about the monitoring of the systems, right? There are a tremendous amount of 15, 16-year-old young people who are out here riding these vehicles all over town and using them in a way that is not sufficient for what was supposed to be provided for the usage of transportation for the residents of the city. So if we can know the amount of individuals that you have that are working, and then what's the turnaround date in picking these devices up from locations, and why can we not provide centralized docking stations?
All right, I can take those questions one at a time.
I'm sorry.
Can you hear me?
No, go ahead.
Or actually, if you guys want to keep going, then we can.
No, answer his questions and then we'll go here.
Okay. I believe we circulated a deck to the council or Director. Okay. I believe Director Wooden circulated a deck to the council that goes over each of those questions. Specifically, Bird has 35 employees in Newark. I believe Bayo
And at VIA, we have 31 employees.
as well. We go through the KPIs, which are meeting Newark Go's requirements and exceeding them, and then also becoming improved over time, specifically in terms of how quickly we move vehicles when they are when they've been idle for 1 day. So less than 1 day, I believe we're at over 90% of those vehicles are moving, but those are all updated in the deck that was circulated to you. And then as well, we're working with them to design those docking stations or the stations, the parking corrals that you're speaking about. But we have to work through both them and DPW to make sure we can choose the correct locations that will work for the community. So it takes a bit more time than any of us would like.
But you mentioned that you had 31 employees. How many apparatuses do you have throughout the entire city?
So we have So we have 1,000 vehicles currently through the program, all of which are serviced depending on where they're located. So if there's a vehicle that is in the way, we do have a 24/7 customer ops team that responds to calls to pick up those vehicles. If the vehicles are inoperational, then they're taken back to the warehouse to be rebalanced, and then they're put back onto the streets. Or not onto the streets, excuse me, but they're put back onto our corrals.
Specifically, we walked your ward, sir, Councilmember Silva, last week. We missed you there, but we would love to walk all the wards with you to understand, like, where do these corrals need to be? But as well, one of the things I observed, you asked about underage people riding these vehicles. We have another issue in Newark, and that is privately owned vehicles that people use. Scooters that are not under the authority of Newark Go, that do not have speed regulation on them, that do not have geofencing on them, that do not park where you want them to park, and that can be owned by anybody, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 14-year-olds even. What I observed in the Ironbound was those were the ones that almost hit me on the sidewalk, right? And those are outside of the purview of this program itself.
All of VOs belong to you, correct?
VO's here.
Correct.
Birds here.
Right. And so I'm not aware of the private components that individuals have that may be another, law-abiding issue, but I'm definitely aware of the VOs that are all around the city, laying on the ground, laying in parks, laying in front of people's homes, without being picked up in a timely way. That's why we're talking about the monitoring of these kind of systems and how that looks, because they're also in front of people's businesses for a long period of time. And so just trying to figure out what that looks like in tracking, the brevity of time that it takes to get to individuals to pick these up. I'm not sure if the 31 individuals that are working for you, are they Newark residents? Are they coming from the outside to get the location, or is there a base in Newark where these 31 people operate at a fundamental office that someone can go to and knock on the door and say, there are 5 apparatuses that have been laying in this area for this period of time, or I noticed 5 VOs on this stretch of a road that no one has picked up. is there a office that people can go to provide these complaints?
Absolutely. So we do have a local warehouse in Newark. So we have our operations team leave from that warehouse, respond to those complaints. So generally, we try to keep it within 1 to 2 hours. If there is a vehicle that is outstanding, we prioritize getting those vehicles off the streets or wherever they are and bringing it back to the warehouse. If you don't mind just repeating the other questions that you had.
Is there a number that the public can reach out, or a actual location? I know you talked about the warehouse, but can a resident go to the warehouse and actually knock on the door to provide information about where these apparatuses are laying around the city or what is happening with them?
So we do have a number that customers can call. We also have an app where if there is someone that sees a scooter and they want to report it, they can just let us know via message and then we'll respond to that. And in terms of if the public can go to those warehouses, they cannot. However, they can call us and we'll respond to that as well.
And that number?
That number I can provide later. I just don't have it memorized. But the VO app, you can still access via the Apple Store or any Google Play Store. You can get that there.
So maybe by the end of this presentation, you can get that number to us?
Absolutely.
And we can say it out loud. Councilman Quintana.
Yeah, in terms of your company, I see they pick up these bikes, these vehicles, but it's not, it's a rented truck that comes around picking up can't you guys get a truck that has a name of who you are, identity, and a phone number? You know, the other day I witnessed there was a hearse truck picking up. I said, well, who are these people? You know, you have to have some kind of, invest in some kind of vehicle that you could put a name on it and a phone number. I mean, I don't think you would do this in another neighborhood. I know in San Antonio, they have a similar company, and they have a truck with the name on it. If you need something, if they're hiring, they put it on there. And here it's just, you go rent a truck somewhere just to pick it up and please us. But again, when people drop these at the parks, the county parks, the city parks, as council said, they drop it on people's driveways and you got to go pick it up because they left it on somebody's driveway. And then people say, what do I do with it? Some people get frustrated. They just like to take it and put it somewhere else. I'm not going to tell you where, but that's how they feel. And the other thing is too, during school hours, a lot of these kids that's supposed to be in school are driving these things around. They're not going to school, but they're driving this. Again, under bad weather, I almost hit a young person the other day. It was raining. I could not even see who was. It just went right towards the same thing. Is there a way that when there's bad weather, you put these things to rest? Rest it for a day, or charge it for the day? Because again, I don't understand how somebody is going to ride these things on Broomfield Avenue next to your car, and you don't see who they're coming because your wipers are on, you're driving as you're going on, and these folks are just zigzagging, and this is going to create more problems for public safety. So again, I know there's other people that have these similar devices, but I don't see them laying them around. Maybe lay them in the garage, but I don't see your company has to invest in the trucks with a signage on it, with a phone number on it, so that you could go and the public can see that you're doing something. But I seen this yellow truck at Branchbrook Park picking up these vehicles, all these scooters, and it's just not. I don't think it's right. Invest into Newark and make so we can have some. We deserve it.
I appreciate the feedback. I think this is something that we have to explore further. It does make sense in terms of being recognized in the community that there's a truck that people can easily identify the number, identify the company, and also if people see something, they can instantly report it. So thank you for sharing that. And in regards to the bad weather, so when there's inclement weather, we actually do remove our scooters so that it is safer for everybody. In terms of riders not using vehicles when it's snowing or when it's heavy rain, we also do notice in terms of ridership that users tend to use the vehicles less for safety reasons. It's something that we can continuously improve, so I do thank you for that.
Councilman, Kelly, and then.
Just a quick question. So you said you removed the scooters in bad weather.
Mhm.
So there's nobody riding the scooters when it's snowing, raining?
So depending on the amount of snow, let's say if it's very heavy snowfall, then we remove the scooters. But if it's not too bad, then there are always going to be users who will feel amongst themselves that they can use the vehicles. It's hard to stop users and tell them specifically you cannot ride when it's not as heavy snowfall. But it is something that we do still see people not using the vehicles as much when it's the weather is poor, but there are some few people that do use it.
So riders still
To
have
be clear-
access?
To be clear, if that's important to you, we can work with Director Wooden to say, hey, this is going to be the rules in Newark, right? We haven't done this yet, but we're hearing this is important to you.
Yeah, it's definitely important.
It's important, like, so
Safety.
we can say if there's going to be snowfall, like, the first step we can do is just make the vehicles inactive, right? So
Right.
that they can't use them and they open up the app and it says, sorry, you can't use these today. That we can do immediately, and then you go to start picking up the vehicles. Usually, when snowfall is happening, in advance, and so you're able to start doing that. Yes.
Yes, definitely the safety of the
So
riders.
and that's what I'm hearing from the council is that's important. So we can work with Director Wooden on that.
I appreciate that.
I think it's important to the safety of our residents.
Yes, definitely. Another thing, also, is there an age limit for the riders?
So
And two parts to that question. Is there an age limit for the riders? And how is that age limit detected? My colleagues from Councilman Quintana to Councilman Council, we all see the youth flying, riding against traffic, riding through traffic, it's really a hazard sometimes. And we know that they can only ride it if they've registered or have a card. But what is the age limit and how is it detected? I heard in one of the presentations, you talked about facial recognition. Is there a better way to detect the youth that are riding not just to detect them, but to protect them from any harm riding your vehicles?
absolutely. So the age limit for our vehicles is 18 and above. And in terms of how we're monitoring that, we have ID recognition. And to your point about the facial recognition, that's something that we're building up and we're still testing. And in terms of, excuse me, I forgot the last question.
Yeah, just the age, what's the age limit? You said 18. The facial recognition, how do we detect who's riding our vehicles and stopping them? Can we make them inactive if they don't meet the age requirement? And how do we make it foolproof? Because a mother or a father or a parent can give the credit card to a young person, but their name is registered to it. And it allows the youth to still, probably which is happening anyway, allows the youth to ride the vehicle. So how do we combat that? How do you combat that as the company?
So it's a two-part solution. One is that we are working with schools to educate users and the staff there that students are not allowed to use the vehicles. Another thing is that near schools, we have no ride zones, which doesn't allow users to ride or park their vehicles near the schools. And in terms of ongoing users who are underage, while we do get reports from time to time, we also do ban users that are identified to be underage as well.
Hey, it's Austin. I'm your sort of more boots on the ground person in Newark from Bird. And to your point, there is no perfect technology because you actually identified exactly what can happen, right? And so that's where, even with technology, if they're using their parents' information, their parents obviously above 18, so they can get around it. The only way to effectively deal with this problem is to proceed to an instant ban, which is what our operations team is now doing. So if a driver is to see somebody that's clearly underage riding one of our devices, do not pass go, do not collect $200, instant ban. It's irrevocable and it's at the device level, so they're not able to create another account on that device. And it's highly effective. In fact, I've been in Newark from, time to time and seen the actual enhancement of this hardline approach to just banning the individuals. And something that's important for council to know is it doesn't just have to be our employees that see this behavior to implement a ban. If you give us a time, a location, ideally a photo is not even required, we can actually identify who that rider was and proceed to a ban. So we're happy to do it offline, after the fact through a report, either from one of the residents in your wards or from you directly. If somebody gets in contact with us with that information, we're happy to ban people breaking our terms of service.
So if my elderly aunt sees a bunch of youth riding wild on your vehicles, they call that number that we're still waiting for?
Yeah, and it was 8 o'clock Saturday. This intersection is when I saw it. There's some time required on our end to try to basically find that ride, but we can find it and proceed with disciplinary action against the riders.
And that phone number that they call?
Oh, yes. And so on that, just to fast follow, I have both of our contact information. I think we'll also need to circulate it through Newark Go to council, just so everybody has it handy. But 2 separate phone numbers. You should know that these are on each of our devices. They're stickered. But Bird is 866-205-2442. And I think we'll email this just so everybody can have it digitally in case of a mistype, but 855-836-2256 for VO. So that's both of our phone numbers.
836, what was the last one?
836-2256.
And also just want to highlight that it's all our contact information is on the Newark Go website.
Councilman Gonzalez.
You said that you had 31 employees and you have 35. Are those full-time employees or part-time employees?
So we have a mix of full-time and part-time employees.
So how many full-time equivalent employees you have instead of the 31 or 35?
Yeah.
How many full-time equivalents?
So I would have to double check that, but I'm happy to report back.
And what's the salary that you pay those individuals? Do they make more than the minimum wage?
So I would need to just get some confirmation before sharing that.
Yeah, I would like to know what salaries. If you could provide a list of the employees with their salaries, that would be even better.
I think we can absolutely follow up with
We
that.
can't know how much people make.
I'm sorry. Let me get Councilman Roundtree first, and then I'll go back.
Thank you, Councilman. I just want some clarity. I keep hearing these two numbers, 31 and 35. So is it 31 or 35 or 31 and 35?
31.
The two different companies have
yeah.
two sets of employees. And I think Councilman Carlos Gonzalez asked how many are full-time and how many are part-time. So that information will be provided for both companies. How many are full-time for you and how many are full-time for you and part-time?
We can get, let's say, their salaries. You file returns for them, quarterly returns and all that stuff. So if we want the information, we can get the information. I believe it would be much better if you provided the information to us.
And just to follow up on that, different roles have different salaries, so we can give a breakdown of what those roles look like, but they're all not minimum wage. They're all significantly above for Newark.
Councilman, council.
Yeah, two things. One, I mean, there is a state minimum wage, and you just indicated that they're below minimum wage.
Above, significantly above.
They're above minimum wage
Yes.
or below minimum wage?
Above.
Okay. So at any given time, how many of the 1,000 vehicles that we talked about that was actually on the road are actually being used? Do you have data about that? so you're saying there's 1,000, we have 1,000 vehicles that are out here. At any given time, out of that 1,000, how many are actually being used?
Any given, like
On
at
any
this
given,
moment, like.
yeah,
right now,
because you said that you have the tracking and monitoring systems in place to be able to know what is moving around the city.
Obviously, throughout the day, it changes, right? In the commute hours, you'll see a lot more used than you will like in the middle of the day necessarily.
What's your high point numbers?
The high point number would probably be like 5 p.m. and probably about half of them will be in use.
In between 5 p.m. to what time? What does that look like in terms of ridership? 500 people riding, 700 people.
Yeah, from 4 to 7, we'll have almost all 1,000 of our vehicles will move, sometimes multiple times. So you'll have that would then say you have on a normal day 1,400 people using the scooters. Just during those periods.
All right, we're gonna wrap this up. So, but let me ask a couple of questions too. You spoke about the riderless zones. Are those riderless zones? Where are those riders? So let me ask you that question. Where you said it shuts off? Or am I incorrect in saying so? There were zones where I believe it was said from VO that there were zones that the vehicles don't activate, right? And where are
Ride
those
zones.
zones?
So we have a list that I can provide later on. I
Yeah,
just don't
because,
know.
yeah, I appreciate that because I believe the conversation was about revolving around schools and having underage. And so we have a number of schools which in the area, in the city of Newark, excuse me. And so that would mean a lot of rider zones that the vehicles would not work. And I just want to confirm that that's the case because we continue to make sure that we want to make that our children especially are not doing things that are going to hurt themselves and be involved with that. I also wanted to ask about how many, do you track the number of rides per year? How many rides in 2024?
So of 2024, we saw that there were about 2 million rides taken with over 100,000 users.
And what about Bird?
It was about 1.75 million rides with about the same number of users.
And with over almost 4 million rides, how many riders did you ban?
I think we're at about 120 on our side.
120? Okay. And is that from, and the banning is from residents informing you, or what were the reasons for the ban?
To be perfectly honest, right now it's driven primarily by our staff catching it, but we welcome more resident feedback to help us, ban the bad apples.
Okay.
Speaking of no ride zones, you can always see it on the apps themselves, but there are a lot of schools that are on this app right now.
I'm sorry, I really can't hear you.
Sorry, speaking of no ride zones, which is what you were asking about, you can see on both apps where scooters or vehicles will stop, will just come to a slow stop, and many of those that are on the app right now are in schools or in the Ironbound area.
Many or all of the schools? Most? Okay, so we may need to look at that again. And, let me say this. I think the concern that we have as a council is really about our residents and about the safety of them. We want to make sure, and I think what's prevalent is that we understand there's a benefit for the ridership for those who don't have vehicles, but we want to make sure that that benefit outweighs any detriment. And that's the main concern that we have here, that what we're doing is going to be best for the residents of our city, for our safety, because, and in the previous meetings, we've talked about, and I don't necessarily it was coming from your vehicles, but we don't want something to happen to someone. We don't want to have any, we had deaths occur that didn't have anything to do with your vehicles, but we don't want that to be the future. We want to make sure that, and God forbid it be a child or somebody young, but we want to make sure that we do it, that this is done in the best way for our residents and for their travel that's necessary for them, but also to make sure that we don't allow what shouldn't be happening. With that being said, unless somebody wants to say one more thing, we should try to wrap it up because one more speaker. All right,
Yeah.
2 more.
How many of the employees live in the city of Newark or from Newark?
All of them, it's been a
All?
priority for us. Yeah, at least on the bird side, we hire locally. Nobody knows the streets better, right? So that's a priority for our driving team.
I just wanted to put that on.
Yo, real quick.
It's also the same for
Same
VO.
thing. All right, last comment from Councilman Silva.
So when I call those numbers, and I don't know how long this has been going on, but this is the first time I've ever heard about a telephone number being accessible to us, to me, or to my residents. I did not know that. All the times you guys been up here, I've never heard that you had a phone number if there is a bike left in front of a home, that we can give that number to one of our residents. This is the first time I'm hearing. So I call the number. What happens? Is it a live operator? Is it a live person and you're going to give them that information? Or do I have to press 7 for this? You know, what happens when I call those numbers? And is it 24 hours? Question is 24 hours. And what's the response time then? From the time I call to the time they come pick up the bike, what is the response time?
So it is 24/7, and as soon as you call, you get a live operator. Once they take down your information, the area in which the vehicle is being reported, they send that over to the operations team, and then from there, the operations team will go out. So given that it is a big team, they do have a number of tickets, so generally they'll go in the order that was received, but it's usually between 1 to 2 hours or less, depending on how much tickets are in that day, and then the issue is resolved then.
Okay, and all that is on the app, correct?
Correct.
All the numbers, the 1-800 numbers, or 1-866, whatever it is, all that information is out there, laid out for easily for our, one last question. Do you have multiple languages? Does somebody else speak like a Spanish or Portuguese on there?
So our app, as well as our website, and we have our operators who are multilingual.
Okay.
The same thing with Bird, and then I should mention it's on the Newark Go website as well for both companies if somebody was looking for either company's contact info.
All right, great. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Council President, council members, our final presentation will be Director James, Director of the Office of Emergency Management.
It's still morning? Yes, good morning.
Yes, good morning, council. Glad to be here.
Thank
I'm
you.
John Sharp James, Director of Homeland Security and Emergency Management. I first wanted to have my staff stand up and acknowledge themselves. I have my Deputy Coordinator, Duba Dowdell.
Stand up, I can't see you.
Deputy Coordinator Craig Smith.
All right, all right.
Domestic Preparedness Planner Tanya Frazier. Peter Pinckney, Finance. And Tara Rouse, Executive Secretary. Also am assigned a police officer, the firefighter. Idell Robinson is from Newark Police. He's not able to be here now, but I do have firefighter Antonio Padilla in the back.
All right.
Thank you. All right. We work directly with the police department and fire department. We are under public safety. So every day we are in their meetings, their conferences, on their communications. Primarily, we respond to fires, major fires. We relocate residents, we provide them assistance, and we work directly with the Red Cross. We have set up 3 shelters in the past year and a half since I've been here. We have also assisted with blankets, food, or what have you, making sure that residents who are traumatized by fire, get the safety and the care of the city because we're there with them. We've coordinated training with the Port Authority, Essex County, state representatives. We also have a City of Newark Emergency Operation Plan, which has been approved by the state since we're the largest city. So we're doing a lot of things on a daily basis. And, we just want to make sure we're here to represent public safety. Today, I want to talk about our community emergency response team. That is made up of community residents. We're going to have a class in April or May. So we want to get the word out early. And that is a way for residents who want to be informed or prepared for emergencies to come and participate. It's voluntary, but it's some good knowledge for those who really want to be involved.
Director, I hate to interrupt you though, but can we get flyers so that we can disseminate the?
Yes, we will get the flyers out as soon as we get the specific dates. We're trying to determine whether we're going to do it on weekends or after 6 p.m. So
Thank
once we have that date, and we also are going to try and have it at the new police facility on Bergen Street. So once we have that out, we will get that out to you.
Thank you.
During the course, they will learn about elements of disasters, basic life safety skills, CPR, bleeding control, how to assess injuries, psychological impact of disasters, fire safety, identification of fire extinguishers and their use, and different uses, different basic responses to hazardous material, whether we have a spill in our neighborhood or they come upon something that might be detrimental. There are requirements. This training is physical, so we want you to be at least 18 years or older. We want you to be able to pick up something 15 to 20 pounds. And you do have to go through a police check. You do have to have a background check. I'm not sure whether you have to do fingerprints, but you do have to also sign a confidentiality agreement. Now, I'm going to be honest, not every city has this. In some cities, this has not worked because people in this program just voluntarily interfere with the police or whatever emergency is going on. Jersey City discontinued theirs. So we just want to make sure that ours is done the right way. Individuals know that they can only act when they are authorized to do so, and they don't just get involved and take over crime scenes or incident scenes improperly. But that is what we have to present. And I have other things will be discussed in executive session. And I believe I sent you several emails of information detailing our projects in the city of Newark. Another thing they don't know about emergency management is we recoup all the money from storms, Hurricane Sandy, Ida, COVID. Our department reached out to the federal government, FEMA, and says, hey, our DPW department has sent millions of dollars cleaning up debris or what have you. That money all comes back through OEM. So we're doing our best. We have all those records if you guys need them, and we can discuss that at a later date.
Thank you, Director. Councilman Quintana.
Yeah, Director, in terms, we have had constituents who have come before us, and they want to know where is the shelters Ms. McDonald talked about. Where do we go? Where there was these signs in the past that would tell you where to go. They were blue and green. Is that correct? Or black? But there were signs back in the day. But moving forward, where are these in case of a disaster? In terms, where's the shelters? Where's the food, water? In terms of where would people would go? Where is there a plan in case of the disaster?
Yes, so
In terms of, let's say, there's a disaster where years ago, there was a plane that crashed on
Kent Street.
Right, on Springfield Avenue. And there were some people that were concerned. What would happen? We don't want that to happen, but we're so close to an airport. We have an arena where terrorists can also try to do things to our arena, our train stations, and et cetera. Where do we have a plan for shelters citywide? Is it schools? What schools? Or is it churches, a basement?
So, Councilman and council colleagues, what we've done under my tenure is we have had the Red Cross come in, who we work with heavily. They are the ones that administer our shelters. We've had them visit schools, gymnasiums. We've had them visit all of our rec centers and certify them as shelters. So right now, the city of Newark, all of our rec centers are certified by FEMA through the Red Cross as shelters. Depending on the incident, we also have robocalls, and we also have geographic communication through the state of New Jersey. It's called Everbridge. And if there is any incident in the city of Newark, which is a detriment to a loss of life or severe injury, the state will geograph that area. Let's say it's around Prudential Center. And that message will go out to any landline and cell phone within that geographic area electronically. So we have that with the state.
On the other matter too, I'm concerned, and I know Councilman Gonzalez has talked about, we're always very concerned about the watershed. Because everybody says, well, it's far away from here. But that's a safety matter for us too. I know the Department of Water and Sewer and our director, but again, I think that we need to look at that aspect. I know Councilman Gonzalez talked about one time about drones in that area, because that is essential to us. If someone, that's a vulnerable place for something to occur. If something to occur that would, and our water would be contaminated, it would be an issue for our citizens. And it's very critical. And also the other stations, like in Belleville, where there's a holding area, the mains, where the main up on Belleville Avenue, is that no, Geralman, on Geralman. But again, we need to look at all those, working together with those departments in the future.
Absolutely. Just so you know, also, the city of Newark is attempting to purchase 2 drones. Actually, the federal government is holding up whether we're going to be able to buy them because there's some privacy issues. They want to get their regulations regarding government-owned drones perfectly down before they award that to us. So that is the only holdup on that. But we have the operators trained, and we are ready to go with them as soon as that's lifted.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilman Silva?
Director, good morning. So I just have a question because we are seeing it live in front of us on TV. What's going on in LA? Major city like ours, no water. God forbid we have something, a fire where there's high winds and now you have 10 structures on fire. Will we ever run into that problem here where we don't have the resources, meaning the water to put out, whether it's a chemical fire, whether it's a huge residential fire that's out of the norm? Do we have to worry about something like that here where there's not ample water at the fire hydrants?
Okay, so luckily, I might be speaking out of line, but our fire department has mutual agreements with fire departments throughout the state. So when we actually had the water main break in the park, Branch Brook Park on Mill Street, we activated that, and other fire departments sent their water units to our stations because we did not have water pressure in the hydrants at that time. So that was an example. It affected 1/3 of the city, but we didn't take any shortcuts. We had a pumper unit at each station. We did that automatically. I also had water trucks sent to our hospitals, and we're trying to work that issue, but no, we would not have that because of mutual aid agreements.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Scott Roundtree.
Thank you, Council President. So we talked about the water shortage. Many constituents have come to the podium to talk to us about their concerns pertaining to preventive measures to educate the public in advance of a crisis. I believe Councilman Quintana was talking about that, and we hear that quite often. I know one of our constituents sitting out in the gallery today, Linda McDonald, is one of the people that always address if there was a crisis, not just an airplane. Look at what happened in LA. We pray to God that we don't have to ever, but in the event of another Katrina, another Sandy, how do we, if we know it's coming, notify with the exception of a robocall? And what do we do to make sure that we have something in place other than shelters at JFK or at the other centers? They only hold up to so much.
Right.
You know, I know this isn't Russia or any of these countries where we got to go underground, but maybe for the future, we can see what we can put together. Or OEM can look at some preventive measures to make sure that we can notify the public in advance and prepare some things for our residents. So they'll see at least we have some type of evacuation plan in place. Okay.
Well,
thank you, Councilman.
Well, believe it or not, since my title is actually Emergency Operations Coordinator, It's because of that. I mean, I have to work with other agencies on the county level, on the state level. We have a system set up where if Newark exhausts all of its resources, we reach out to the county. If the county exhausts the resources, we reach out to the state. So at the same time that we had the water shortage in the park, I had already contacted the National Guard. They were ready to bring in water trucks to bring us water, and that would have been for the community. But luckily, we had enough water on hand through portable bottled water. We had cases and cases, which we need to order more of. Also, I want to say that the Red Cross and FEMA, the #1 agencies that deal with disasters. I'm not going to sit up here and present myself as an expert. So I work with them, and I have their website, and it's going to be something added to the OEM city webpage. It's going to include Red Cross apps, suggestions, because emergency operations don't begin on a city level, they begin at home. Do you have flashlights? Do you have batteries? Do you know in your own home how to get out in case there's an incident or situation? So that will be put out as soon as it's approved by the police director, and people will actually be able to click a link. So it'll be interactive. Download that app. They can Google on the app whatever disaster or situation is occurring, get direct information from the Red Cross, from FEMA, right at their fingertips. And I think that's a good pre-planning resource, along with the temporary shelters. Of course, a large city like the city of Newark, there's nowhere we can evacuate 300 people,
That's right.
300,000 people to. Plus, our population swells to maybe 500, 600,000 during a regular workday. So only hope is we have isolated incidents, public safety to respond immediately, cordon off an area, give warnings not to go to that area, and then respond accordingly.
Great, thank you.
Anything else from the council? So let me ask you a couple questions, Director, if I may. I know you referred to, I guess it's called a reverse 411 or reverse 4311. If a disaster happens, they can be robocalls back to the
Robocalls.
individual. Is there any information that you have in terms of a flyer form or some form that we can disseminate to the residents about if a disaster happens, number one, what should you already have in place? Like you mentioned, flashlights, other things that may be necessary. Because I know personally, I bought one of those disaster kits. I hope I never had to use, but I got the disaster kit for a family of 4. So I got enough for everybody, hopefully, includes water, et cetera. But seriously, is there some information that you can disseminate that we can use and disseminate to the residents or the administration regarding what we should have in place before a disaster hits? Remember COVID, I was in line at the grocery store, outside around the block, trying to get little groceries at 6 in the morning that I could get or whatever is necessary. Is there something that you all have or can put together or in place that we can share with our residents so that when a disaster happens, we're not caught flat-footed? That's my first question. My second question, and kind of it's two-part, is does the city have any PA system or the City Hall or OEM have a PA system that will announce a disaster and then what we should do for that disaster? For instance, back in the day with air raids, you would hear the siren go off and everybody would go under and you hunker down and do whatever is necessary. And the second part to that question, I'm sorry, I'm throwing a whole lot out at one time, is regarding city buildings in terms of, no, it's not called emergency evacuation, what do you call them?
Emergency evacuation plan.
Well, evacuation plan, but then drills. Do we do drills or going to continue to do drills?
Let me start with one. I mean, we could go over 20 or 30 disasters which might happen in the city of Newark. I mean, we could print responses to that on paper, millions of pages we would print. So that's why I want to try and go more technology, driven to sites through the apps, through the Red Cross. Then people can look at what they need to look at. And when we send out an announcement through the robocalls or what have you, then they can pull up their app. The Red Cross, they have it down by the book. And, you know, stuff changes. We're learning new things. And we had the incident down in New Orleans, which OEM, whenever you see a community event, which we have 40 or 50 out in the streets every year, we're the ones that put up the barriers, the concrete barriers, the Meridian barriers, the Delta barriers. That's what we do. So we try and prepare. So as far as information in advance, unless you want to print all day, I suggest we use technology, use the app. Everyone generally has a cell phone, and they'll be able to pull up that app and say, hey, you know, the city of Newark made an announcement, this is going on. So I'm going to click that for flood, I'm going to click it for earthquake, I'm going to click it for what have you, and get direct guidance from the Red Cross.
And let me, I just want to, so if we go to the app, each one of those is, what that you just explained, is
Correct.
in the app and what we would need and what we should do.
Yes. What should have at your home and what should happen if you're out in public and an incident occurs.
Right.
Secondly, you asked about a loudspeaker, what have you, some kind of message
system.
notification. Again, all we have is through the state. We have robocalls, but if we do have an emergency, the communications department gets involved. We might put something out on a cable TV city network. Everyone would be notified. It wouldn't just be expected to come out by City Hall. We would notify all of our partners and agencies on the county and state level and federal level that, hey, we might need assistance, pre-positioned assistance, because we know we're going to get hit with something. And the last one
was about emergency evacuation drills or any evacuation.
So once we establish the emergency operation plan, which we're working on now because we haven't had it in some time, then the drills will follow. But I want to applaud, I believe the Director of Health is here, Ms. Osbrook.
Yeah.
The Health Department has already been doing it. They are probably the only department that has their emergency operations plan and effectively does it every year. So I just want to give her kudos. I have one template, but I'm working majority off of her template. City Hall, we're also doing digital mapping. City Hall's already mapped. So we just need to designate individuals in certain corners of the building. Fire happens, you're guiding people out this way. Another end, you're guiding out the other way. But we need to do that for every city building, and there's probably 60 city buildings. So we're working on that now.
And earthquakes, because we have.
Yes. Yes.
Very good. Councilman, who was that, Quintana? I mean, Gonzalez.
Your mic is off.
Yeah, there you go.
Ms. Carter here always asks about the plan in the case of evacuations. Let's say we have to leave the city, or how people know what route to take out of the city if an emergency happens. Do we have that?
Okay, so we have that in the plan, but again, that's going to depend on where the emergency is.
We have to have signs, I believe,
Right.
throughout the main streets in the city of Newark,
Yes.
leading to other places, other towns.
Yes, not only signs, but with traffic and signal, we can change the signs, you know, green going one direction and kind of guide people. At that point, remember, you're going to have full participation from the entire Newark Fire Department and Newark Police Department. We're going to be coordinating people and sending them out. So that's what would happen. I know the county puts up signs on the county roads, but the full public safety department will be involved in that. And we would guide people. OEM, we only have about 3 signs. You see them up whenever we're going to have an event, you know, event this weekend, detour. But everyone, it would be all hands on deck if emergency actually happened.
All right, council, I think, all right, one more question. We're going to wrap this up. Councilwoman Scott Roundtree.
Drills for senior citizens to evacuate. So I gather there would be communication with the Department of Senior Services and all of the buildings in the city of Newark that house our seniors. Is there anything in place? I don't work that closely with the operations of the senior buildings, but is there anything in place that OEM has done, just like we do the training with the guns and all of that? Is there anything in place for our senior citizens in all of these high rises throughout the city?
I'm gonna have to reach out to the housing authority. I mean, those are their buildings. They dismantled their community relations team
No.
recently, so actually they call me when they have evacuations.
That's why I
We,
asked. 'Cause
we
this-
recently had the power outage up at Stephen Crane. They called OEM, so we assist to the best of the ability. I mean, I brought in the Red Cross, and we set up a shelter down at the waterfront, and we had about 28 residents there for about 4 or 5 days. But that's the maximum just about I can run a shelter for.
Right. And that's in the event that the power grid goes down. So not all the senior buildings are housing authority. I do believe there's some privately owned as well. So getting that information to find out what plans they have
Absolutely.
to evacuate in the event that something occurs, especially if the power goes out, because that's a whole nother circumstance. Okay.
Okay, thank you. Last comment.
Yep.
Councilman Quintana.
And just years ago, we had the administration, council members, the different departments go down to Texas. Councilman Gonzalez, the late Councilwoman Mildred Crump, we all went down to Texas, and we stood there for 2 days, and we would be in scenarios where they would stage it from policy. You were there too, right?
No,
you didn't.
I don't think he went with.
So you should take a ride there. But it was great because Director Isaac at the time, may he rest, he encouraged us to go into see what would happen in a crisis, how we were gonna, and we would go into these teams and we would discuss from police, fire, and the whole situation, how we were gonna deal with the policy, how we were gonna buy things right away, because when crises occur, you have to really be ready when the state of emergency, to be ready to purchase whatever you have to do. That was very instrumental because we were able to learn a lot and bring it back to the city. So I'm looking forward to seeing how through the Department of Homeland Security or through a grant that we can send some of your staff and some other folks and citizens and residents that want to learn about this whole experience, because it was a great experience that we learned. We sat there for 2 days and we didn't go shopping. We didn't go none of these things. It was a strict day, the next day, and then we flew back it was in Austin, Texas. I'm thinking it was Austin, right, Councilman Gonzalez?
No, it wasn't Austin.
College Town. So we had an experience, and it was really, we came back, and then they came back to us, and then they had something on Bergen Street where they would try to do a crisis if something happened at the arena. How would we react? And we were it's to prevent and to learn prevention.
Yeah, can I just add? I think that was a great program. I went to Texas to the Teaks with Teaks.
Right, Teaks program.
And we did learn a lot about different disasters and how to respond, and whether it's legal versus actual boots on the ground. And then they came up here and did another kind of refresher training on Clinton Avenue, which I thought was very good. And maybe there's something that can be incorporated into the program that you're talking about with residents from the city, to incorporate some of that, because I thought that was eye-opening in terms of everybody understanding all the different moving parts that take place. It's not just like, for instance, what's going on in California. It's not just the fire. There are a lot of other parts that we don't even know about that are facilitating, putting out the fire, facilitating, dealing with the housing issues, with people losing houses, dealing with the insurance part, dealing with the unfortunate deaths that have occurred. So there are a lot of moving parts in with regards to any emergency that occurs. So I think maybe that's something you think about including into it. And before I forget, I just want to, because we've been dancing around the name for the most part, but Ms. McDonald Carter
That's right.
has been talking about this for a while. So it's important, and she was right, and no one ever said she wasn't, but it's important that we all know what's going on and make sure that our residents are safe in case of an emergency.
Council President.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman.
I just got one quick thing to end off, I'm assuming what Councilwoman Roundtree was talking about, but you know, every building in the city should have an emergency management plan. And it should be our responsibility as OEM, even to work with EHD, to send message and information out to all of these facilities, be it housing authority buildings, privately owned buildings, to be able to say, you have to have an emergency management plan, and it should be turned into the Office of OEM. And if not, then they should have it posted in their building somewhere. In the event that something happens, you'll be able to know where it's posted and can be able to grab a copy or get the information from it and know what is happening or what these individuals indicated.
Now, along those lines, we do have an emergency plan for any company which has hazardous materials. That also falls under our department. We have that documented and electronic. We report to the county and the state with that. So if there's a company that has hydrochloric acid, this about a certain amount, they have to have a plan which they submit to us, which we submit to the fire department, what their plan is in case the gas escapes or what have you. So we do have that documented in our department.
And we
But-
should encourage that more of these facilities have fire drills as well, so that they know what happens when you go out, move out. I know we have fire drills here in this building, but we should ensure that there are fire drills that are held in each facility.
And as far as the teaks, I did price that out as soon as I took position. They want like $250,000. The fire department, because I did not include teaks, was able to buy a vehicle, which is rare. It's a special apparatus. That's the only way we were able to buy it, because the federal government and UASI does not allow vehicles or cars to be purchased. But we were able to get that for about $225,000, which I can discuss later in the executive session.
Thank you. So,
I just wanted to
all
mention.
right, Councilman Gonzalez, quick.
It's imperative that buildings that have senior citizens that might be disabled, let's say, be listed and be that person should have special treatment, because the other day we have a drill at the county building, and there was a lady that was on a wheelchair visiting, and let's say if the fire had been real, that lady would have perished there, because nobody thought of that lady as a visitor. So I believe it's important that we not only know, but that we record where the say people that with disabilities are in the building.
We do have a list along with PSE&G of every resident in the city of Newark, which is on a special medical device, electronic device, oxygen, or what have you. We do have that list. And during storms or snow, what have you, we share that with ESU, the special unit for the police. They can go out and actually get that person.
Yeah, we should do the same with people in wheelchairs.
Yes, okay.
So let me add this, and then we're going to wrap it up. So my Kenny, through my office, he works with the fire department and works with them to do fire inspections and then to do fire drills for the senior buildings. So we it's been off a little bit, but we're going to go back to doing that. We were doing that on a regular basis to make sure that it's safe. With that being said, Director, I want to thank you for your presentation today. It was very thorough. We appreciate it. And thank you and your staff for all that you do. I believe we've had a nice, thorough presentation, and I don't think, unless you really say we have to go to executive session, that we need to go to executive session at 12:05.
Okay, the only reason for that was people were discussing funding. We could go into that, but we could have it at a later time. I'm here.
I think we're good right now. We can do it at a later time. I thank you so much for what you're doing. We're going. You have something else to say? Something?
I have an hour more presentation.
Yeah, we're gonna skip that
Another
hour,
time?
Lawrence.
Okay, another time.
Good, do some scuba
You're here
diving.
by yourself, Councilman.
Yeah,
With that being said,
All right.
everybody have a great day. Again, thank you everybody for your presentations and your.
And the water department said they got their emergency plan.
Director.
Okay, which one? Oh, yeah, let's everybody. Wow. No, we got food. I'm going to charge you for everybody. Yeah. Yeah. Food just for like, because we never got to celebrate as a council, so there's food upstairs for all of us.
Not that